Friends, this is Chris. So today actually I'm going to see one of the movie review, and it is an Indonesian film, and the film name is Satan Slave. I don't know what is the meaning, what is the ultimate story of the slave of this film, but still let's see what this review says. In IMDb I think it's got a good rating, more than 7 up rating. So let's hear the story of this Satan Slave. How is it? How much horror is it? Let's see.
Hey, what's up, guys? Today,
Oh.
I'll show you a horror film, Satan's Slave. Spoiler ahead, watch out and take care. One night, a woman is chanting a prayer while crying. It seems that she is warding off something evil. After that night, we see a woman named Rinny visiting a music company. It is revealed that her mother was a singer, and Rinny came to the company to get her mother's sales and royalties. However, an agent informs her that her mother's sales didn't produce income. Rinny explains that her family is under financial hardships because her mother is sick. However, the agent feels bad for Rinny and hands her a small amount of money so that they can get by. Shortly after, Rinny is on her way home, and she's seen living near the outskirts of the city with her family. When Rinny arrives at her home, she greets her grandmother, her mute little brother Ian, and her other...
Okay, so here is the story starting with like her mother is sick, and she discovered that her mother, not discovered, she knew that her mother was a singer, but right now she is sick, so she cannot able to sing the song. She cannot able to work in that company, music company. So the daughter went to that music company to borrow some money. You know, if there is a hardships in the money, if there is the shortage of money in the financial background, then obviously you go to that company to beg some money, to borrow some money. But the music owner, the company owner, told that her mother's song didn't produce something lots of money. So as a generosity, he just hand over some small amount of money. I don't know whether that much of money will work for her mother's sickness or not.
little brother, Bondi. After that, she heads to her father to inform him that she did not get money from the music company. She argues with her father and suggests selling the house instead. However, her father rejects selling it because it won't be easy. Their argument is cut short when her mother calls for help using a bell. Rinny heads over to her mother's room, and we see that her mother can't move and speak properly. Rinny asks her mother if she needs anything. Her mother rings the bell and freaks out while looking at the ceiling. Rinny sees nothing at the ceiling, so she...
Oh, man, that's horrible, man. I think normal person cannot see the anything black thing or any dark thing, but I think her mother can see that sense of thing. That the mother can see the ghost, but her daughter cannot able to see that ghost. If you look at this face, she's directly looking to the ceiling, so I think maybe she's seeing the ghost in the ceiling, maybe.
confiscates the bell. Shortly after, her mother calms down. Later that evening, the father plays his wife's songs, and he relaxes outside with his mother. Shortly after, Rinny's other brother Tony arrives on a motorcycle. Tony greets his father and gives him the key to his motorcycle to sell for his mother's medicine. The father then sells the motorcycle to their neighbor, who is waiting at their house. After the...
Yes, of course, there is lots of hardships, if financial background is low, there are lots of things you need to sell. I think that her brother, her father don't income so much. Did income so much so that he can afford her wife sickness treatment.
that, Tony goes inside to greet his other siblings. Tony offers them an expensive dinner because he recently sold his stuff. Suddenly, the mother's bell starts ringing, so Tony heads over to his mother to begin her bedtime routine. In the mother's room, Tony greets his mother and combs her hair. Then he notices that her hair has fallen off.
Ooh.
Tony promises to work hard for her medication. Suddenly, the windows burst open and scare
Ooh,
Tony.
man.
He checks the window to see if something's outside, but he sees nothing there. When he looks back at his mother, he sees her creepily staring at him. This unsettles him, so he leaves.
Oh man. What to say? If you go and didn't see something, and you're another person who is just giving an eerie type of noticing, something, what to tell, something awkward type of notice near the window, this will really, really give you tensed. I mean, you will just become shaky.
At bedtime, Rennie sees her father in her mother's room. There, he begs his wife to take pity on the kids. Rennie asks what his
Let's
father and her mother
look back
kept
a little bit.
outside,
Look
but he
back.
sees nothing there. When he looks back at his mother, he sees her creepily staring at him.
Oh
This
man, what a look! I mean, what a creepily staring. Obviously, you will get frightened if any of your mother, father, or any of the family members look staring creepily stare at you. You didn't find anything, but your father, mother is looking like that type of creepily look. You will obviously get scared. Why she is giving this type of look? What's wrong in me?
settles him, so he leaves. At bedtime, Rennie sees her father in her mother's room. There, he begs his wife to take pity on the kids. Rennie asks what it means, but her father just tells her to go to sleep. Later that night, Rennie wakes up to noises upstairs. She follows the noises, and it leads to her mother's room. There, she sees her mother standing near the window, and then her mother approaches her. Suddenly, her real mother in bed aggressively rings the bell to warn her. Rennie realizes the one standing up is an imposter.
Oh,
Then the imposter turns around and smiles at her mother. Rennie wakes up and realizes that it's only a nightmare. She heads back up to her mother's room.
oh man. What a scene, man. That's a nightmare. That's a nightmare. I mean, if this was in reality, it's a nightmare, it's a dream, it's a dream. But if this was real life, I mean, if you open the door, you know that your mother is bedridden. And if you open the door and if you see your mother is wearing a wedding dress type and standing in front of the window, looking at in front of the window, and you just watching her back, there's the question comes that how? I mean, the mother is bedridden. How can she stand and having this type of beautiful dress, wearing such a wedding type of dress? How? She cannot even stand. That was mean. I mean, that's a goosebumps. You know, that's a goosebumps. I mean, if you touching her and suddenly you just see that your actual mother is bedridden, then whom are you touching?
To check on her. When she gets to her mother's room, she sees her mother standing near the window, just like in the dream. She approaches her
Oh, now this is the real. I think so.
mother and asks if she is okay. Just then, her mother turns around and collapses with a shocked expression. Rennie calls for help.
Oh man. I mean, this is like a premonition. You know, if you have seen the Final Destinations, before the destiny, you have seen something, right? You've seen something that yes, this incident will happen, and you are just little bit step backward of that incident, right? So this is the thing. I mean, she is getting the nightmare, and that's coming in the real life. What a scene, man.
And her father and brothers arrive, only to see that their mother is already dead. The next day, Rennie's family mourns at the mother's funeral. The priest offers the funeral rites and concludes the ceremony. The priest's son introduces himself to Rennie. However, Rennie dismisses him, and she goes to Bondi, who suddenly stops walking. Bondi tells Rennie that their mother will haunt them when they walk away from her grave. Rennie assures him that it's not true and convinces him to come home. Later that evening, the father tucks the kids in
So I think maybe it's related to something. I mean, the kids can see. The kids is saying the real thing because it will haunt them. Just now, the kids told his elder sister. That's a problem. I mean, don't know. Let's see.
bed and goes to the living room. There he tells Rennie and Tony that he is going to town to settle a financial dispute with the bank to save their house. Tony and Rennie think this is inappropriate, considering the recent funeral, but the father insists, or else they will become homeless. Then they all go to sleep except for Tony, who is listening to his mother's song on the radio. Suddenly, Tony hears noises in his mother's bedroom. There he sees a floating object that suddenly falls. He runs back to his room thinking it's an illusion, and he goes to sleep. The following day, the father goes into town, leaving Tony and Rennie.
I mean, this is horrible. I mean, if you listen the song of your somebody who is dead, I mean that's a family member, and that person is a family member. And from that room, I mean where your family member is dead, from that room some sound is coming, and in the middle of the night you just knock the door and see something levitating. then what to tell? I mean, that's an hallucinations or something else. You cannot describe it. And now, if the next, if you describe to any person, that person will just laugh at you, just mocks at you. You cannot describe these type of things, right?
In charge of taking care of the house. Bondi says that he will skip school because he will be bullied. So Tommy tries to convince him to go to school and gives him a toy camera as a bribe. However, Tommy leaves as he is late for work. Just then, Rinny notices that the plumbing is not working, so she goes to the well to get water. The following moment, Rinny senses ghosts in the mirror beside her, but when she looks in the mirror, the ghosts disappear. Meanwhile, Bondi plays with his toy camera, and he sees it filled with pictures of their house. Then a ghostly form of his mother appears in the camera, so Bondi throws it away in shock. He tries browsing again, but this time the camera goes back to normal. Later that night, Tony listens again to his mother's songs on the radio. However, this time it broadcasts his mother's voice as if she's speaking to Tony. Suddenly, a ghost of his mother appears beside him, so he rushes to turn on the lights and the ghost vanishes. At that time, Ian asks Bob.
I mean, and this is so much, what to tell, this is so much horrible that you are listening your mother's song in the midnight only. And also when you are listening the mother's song and that's not a song, that's not a song tune, just speaking something, I mean some messages giving, how can that possible? I mean, it's broadcasting in the radio and you can able to see that your mother is not singing but giving some message. How is it possible? And that point of time seeing the ghost of your mother, that's horrible.
Bondi to accompany him to the bathroom. But Bondi is asleep, so Ian goes to the bathroom alone.
Oh man.
Meanwhile, in the room with the well, a figure approaches Ian from behind. Luckily, it was only Bondi who woke up to accompany him. After that, they both head back to their room. However, Ian is scared as he sees his mother in the hallway. However, Bondi doesn't see it and tries throwing a blanket where Ian sees their mother. Just then, the blanket lands on an invisible person, and then it chases after them. Rinny hears their scream, and she quickly goes to them. Then the children tell Rinny that they saw a ghost. However, Rinny dismisses it and tells them that it's only their nightmare.
I like that small child. He's just covering his face with the hands because he have a fear that his mother's photo is not normal. It's haunting. The mother's photo is like real haunting. I mean, if you can see.
Meanwhile, the grandmother is writing a letter while looking distressed. The following day, Rinny heads to the cemetery with the priest's son. As they walk together, the priest's son tells her that he saw ghostly forms of Rinny's mother during the funeral and at their house. He explains to Rinny that the forms are not her mother, but something evil.
Okay, so priest's son also saw the ghost of her mother inside the house and also standing near to the cemetery.
The priest's son offers to protect them at his home while waiting for their father back. However, it seems that Rinny doesn't believe in his superstitions and doubts his warning, so she refuses his offer and heads home. Meanwhile, the grandmother is seen running away from something. However, the grandmother stops and stands up as if something has caught her. Shortly after, Rinny gets home, and Bondi helps her to look for their grandmother. To their shock, they find their grandmother's lifeless body inside the well. The following day at the grandmother's funeral, the priest's son believes that something is targeting Rinny's family.
Yes, something is targeting. I mean, it's become cursed, right? Mother is dead, grandmother is dead, so it's a curse.
He plans to convince Rinny to accept his protection before it's too late. Back at Rinny's home, we see Rinny finding her grandmother's letter in her room and an address indicated in the letter. The following moment, Rinny goes to the address with the help of the priest's son, and she meets an old man who is a childhood friend of her grandmother.
Okay.
The old man tells her that the grandmother did not approve Rinny's parents' marriage, and the grandmother also thought that Rinny's mother was infertile for years, until suddenly she gave birth to Rinny and the other children. Rinny asks him why he is telling this to her, so the old man explains that after giving birth, Rinny's mother became ill, which made her grandmother doubt her fertility was coming from God. Rinny doubts his story, so the old man gives her a book with an article to help her understand. Meanwhile, back at home, Bondi starts acting weird when he goes coming from God giving birth. Rinny asks him why he until suddenly she gave, and the grandmother also thought that Rinny's mother was in, and she meets an old man who is a childhood friend of her grandmother. The old man tells her that the grandmother did not approve Rinny's parents' marriage, and the grandmother also thought that Rinny's mother was infertile for years, until suddenly she gave birth to Rinny and the other children. Rinny asks him why he is telling this to her, so the old man explains that after giving birth, Rinny's mother became ill, which made her grandmother doubt her fertility was coming from God. Rinny doubts his story.
Okay, so grandmother knows that Rinny's mother was infertile. She cannot give babies. But however, she gave birth to Rinny and other two sons. So the grandmother was doubting that, and after that, after giving those birth, Rinny's mother became ill. So the grandmother was in doubt that whether it's coming from God or not, or maybe something else. So here is the mystery is coming. Those Rinny is just surfacing all those history, all those mystery of her family.
So the old man gives her a book with an article to help her understand. Meanwhile, back at home, Bondi starts acting weird when he hears whispers in his sleep.
Ooh.
The whispers tell him to kill Ian as he is dangerous, and he starts thinking of killing Ian ever since. At bedtime, Ian wakes up and goes to a spot where he used to play with his grandmother. There, Ian sees a shadow figure, which makes him run away.
Ooh.
However, he gets stuck. Fortunately, the figure from the door didn't chase him. The next day, Rinny prepares breakfast for the family. She plays her mother's song.
Okay, so it's haunting. Right now it's haunting. Everybody's haunting. What a situation, man. What a situation.
It only plays in an ancient sinister language. She ignores this and proceeds to wake up Bondi and Ian. In their room, she notices that Ian is missing. After looking around the house, she finds him outside the house in a box asleep. She wakes him up and takes him to comfort him from his nightmare. After that, Tony confronts Rinny about the book she got from the old man. He tells her that based on this article, their mother wasn't pregnant from their father, but instead, she was impregnated by different members of a satanic cult.
Oh, man. Okay. So right now they are just discovering what happened in the past. Their child, now the siblings are just discovering what happened to their mother. So that old man, the grandmother's friend just gave them the old man that magazine so that they can understand what exact mapping to what relation is there with their family. So right now they're discovering that they didn't came from their mother, maybe from the satanic cult, from the Satan. So that is why the Satan slave. Okay.
He also confirms this to be true since all of their siblings look distinctly different.
Okay.
He adds that in his childhood, he accompanied their mother to her events as a singer.
Okay. So there is the meaning that their face is not matching. Every sibling's face should be related, right, from your mom's face or from your father's face, or your elder son or elder brother face or elder daughter face. But it's not relating. All those siblings' face are different. Right now they are just relating that how it's happening.
There, strange individuals visited his mother during the events to watch over her. He further explains that the cult allows infertile women to bear children through the worship of Satan. However, they can only bear children on the condition that they give their last child to the cult at the age of 7. And then this child becomes Satan's slave, which will represent the cult. Tony continues to explain that the last child should be given up, or else all its family members will be killed. And a child will...
So, the last child is 7 years old, and it should be taken by the Satan. Okay, otherwise everybody should be killed. That is the ultimate message from the Satan.
Be forcefully taken by the undead. This part makes Tony doubt the article, but he believes it since it's happening to them. However, Rinny doesn't believe it at all. After their discussion, the grandmother's wheelchair appears in the dining room and worries Rinny. Shortly after, Rinny asks the priest for assistance, and the priest advises them to pray regularly to God. The following night, Rinny prays as the priest advises. However, the ghost of her mother haunts her during the prayer. This scares her, so she takes the family to the priest's house for protection. The following day, the priest's son gets a call from the old man telling him to meet. He meets the old man, and the old man gives him a letter for Rinny. The priest's son rushes to go to Rinny, but along the road he gets into an accident with a truck, and he dies. Fortunately, Rinny finds the letter when the priest's son's body is brought back to the priest.
Oh, man.
After the priest's son's funeral, Rinny notices a figure resembling the priest's son, and she gets pulled by it to the window. Luckily, her siblings manage to pull her back in. Then they meet their father and return home.
I mean, those who just carry their family, those who just aid to this family, they will also become the victim, right? They will also become the victim. That's happening. Now the priest's son is targeted, and now, so obviously, if something happens, everybody will expel that family, that move out from a house because my family is getting affected due to yours. So that's his haunting. Now the family becomes the curse.
Safely. At their home, they inform their father of the recent happenings, and the father decides to leave the house for good. Later that night, Ian asks Tony again to accompany him to the bathroom. Suddenly, Ian gets locked inside the room.
Ooh.
His father tries to save him as Ian gets dragged into the well. Fortunately, the father manages to get Ian just before the figure inside the well drags him in. During that incident, members of the satanic cult begin to surround their house. Meanwhile, Rennie, her father, and Tony get trapped in a room.
I mean, it's just horrible if you see the satanic cult standing in front of your courtyard, a house courtyard. That's a great horror. I mean, great horror.
As the grandmother's wheelchair flies at them.
Oh man.
Then the figure in the well tries to drag Ian back in again. Bondi thinks of giving up his brother. However, he decides to save Ian instead. The others manage to escape from the room and drive away the satanic cult. When the cultists leave, they drop a bunch of beans. The following day, the family prepares to leave their home. As they wait for the moving truck, Rennie discovers the beans and wonders what their purpose is. She remembers the letter the priest's son got from the old man, and she goes back to read it. The priest also stays with them before they move out. However, after waiting for a while, the truck fails to come to their house. Then, a blackout happens as the night falls. So the priest stays the night with the family to protect them. Meanwhile, Rennie finds the letter and reads the article given by the old man. She explains to Tony that the last child isn't a sacrifice, but a child of Satan, meaning Ian might be the child of Satan.
Oh.
It's revealed.
So the last child was the Satan. I mean, that's a Satan child. So it should be returned to the Satan. Otherwise, your family will be destroyed.
That in order to avoid her last child being taken by Satan, Rennie's mother tricked the cult into making her pregnant again and again before her every child reached the age of 7. Unfortunately, Satan discovered her trick and so cursed her with sickness. What's more, Rennie thinks that the figure in the well is their grandmother, trying to drag Ian to kill him and prevent his ascension as Satan's child and thus protect the family. She also realizes that the cultists dropped the beans, so as to lead the undead to Satan's child. Suddenly, they're attacked once more when the father sees his wife's corpse. Meanwhile, Ian starts acting strangely in their bed.
It's now growing. I mean, the attacking is growing from the Satan side. Right now, day and night, every time, every aspect, every step of their life, you are just seeing the Satan. You are just seeing. If you see every time the Satan in every step, obviously your life will be in hell. Your life will be jeopardy, or your family will cursed. You are dead. Something else. So this is not happening.
And he starts chanting in ancient language. The siblings also see the undead invading the house.
Oof.
The undead kill the priest, while Ian goes to his mother's undead corpse that appeared in the backyard. The father tries to get Ian back, but Tony stops him. The family eventually gives up on Ian, as the undead take him as Satan's child. Suddenly, the old man arrives and rescues them in his truck, and they escape from the house. A year later, the family settles in their new life in an apartment. There, they meet a neighbor who offers them food, and as the neighbor returns to her apartment room, she is revealed to be a member of the cult, as her apartment is filled with her supply of beans. Then the neighbor's lover urges to keep the family trapped in the apartment complex, foreshadowing the grim events Rennie's family will encounter.
Okay, so here is that ultimate story. That the story is what? The story is this, that many siblings is there, and the last child is actually the Satan's child, and that was the condition. I mean, her mother, the Rennie's mother, just built a condition to the Satan's that my last child will be given to you. Okay, so that is the conditions. But somehow they don't know. The family members don't know what is the history of their mother. But after their mother's death, this history was revealed, and ultimately it got healed when the last child, I mean the Ian, was handed over to the Satan. That was the safe for the family. After handovering the last child, everything got cured, everything got saved. I mean, everything just healed, and no members got dead after death, after the handover. right? I mean, post handover. So that's the ultimate story of the satanic slave. I mean, Satan's slave. Satan's slave 2 also came out. I don't know what's the rating of that, but Satan's slave is definitely the beautiful story. I mean, beautiful horror story. You know, nobody can ever imagine that this type of can also be happen in a film. This is an Indonesian film, and I think I need to see this film because it's awesome. Right, the story is awesome. You are getting to know your family background, whom you are born, how you born, and what the relation with this. So this is that story that Rainy is getting to know our family backgrounds. And the most thing is, I mean, that uh, that song playing of his deceased mother, right? Deceased mother, when they are playing this song of the deceased mother, they are getting something, some different song. I mean, some messages coming from their song, right? When they are listening to the mother song, some messages coming right now. Just now we have seen some messages coming. What is that message? Nobody knows. And everybody, I mean, the little child was also speaking in ancient language that's not related to Indonesian language. So that's a gruesome thing. That's a horrible thing, gruesome thing. I mean, that's an awkward thing, right? That's a sinister. So, friends, what do you think about this story? What do you think about this satanic slave? Just let me know. Thank you.